Joining me today is former UFC middleweight champion Robert Whittaker, who will look to reclaim his belt when he rematches Israel Adesanya in the main event of UFC 271. Rob, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. I'm sure you saw the announcement yesterday of Derek Lewis versus Tai Tuivasa added to your card. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I'm stoked for that. That's awesome. I always love being on the card with Ty, and also to have like names like theirs and names like Derek Lewis coming on the card only brings more eyes to it. So yeah, very happy.
I'm assuming no celebratory shoeies or anything like that with Tai.
Who knows? Who knows what happens? You know what? I've been adamantly against the shoey since day dot, but you know, after a couple goes back, who knows what I'll be up to?
Well, that's good to hear. Well, Rob, it seems like you've known about this fight for a while, but for some reason it only became official recently. And his coach was in the media saying that the holdup kind of came from your side. He tweeted the cat emoji when the actual fight was announced officially. What was going on with all that? Like, what took so long for it to be official?
I, I got no idea, and I don't think. I'm sure they were just playing games, like the coaches and Izzy himself. I think they were just playing games. They were just, causing a little bit of drama, making people talk about it like we are now. And yeah, like I've known about it for a long time. I've been prepping for it for a long time, and it's here.
So, was there any like concern on your part? Like, is this fight not happening in February, or are you like, this is kind of like all games on their part, and you were just going about your stuff?
Yeah, no, I knew 100% that it was on, and I also know that the type of characters they are and the games they like to play. This is, it fits the mold quite well. So I just yeah, I did the only thing I could do in this situation and train. That's it. Just train for the fight that's coming up.
Right. And excuse my ignorance here a little bit, but in terms of like travel situation for you, like in and out of Australia, was there ever an issue when it comes to making the fight official in regards to that, or were you never going to have an issue?
No, I was never going to have an issue. Like travel in Australia has been like no, not as fluent as it could has been, but I've been able I've been able to fight in the last few years. I've been able to leave the country and get back in. I think a lot of the travel holdups and obstacles were on the New Zealand side, which is completely understandable. I understand that they were having troubles leaving and then trying to get back in, and you can see with the fighters like Dan Hooker like getting stuck overseas for the length of time they did. And yeah, it is what it is. It's out of their control, out of my control. So you just got to kind of roll with the punches.
Right. And he recently came out, well, not in the media, I think it was part of his vlog or something like that, where he was saying what makes you kind of dangerous is the fact that you acknowledged your loss to him as opposed to Apollo Costa or Marvin Vittori. I don't know if you saw those comments that he made, and just what do you think of him saying that you, as opposed to his prior opponents, like actually acknowledged the loss?
Yeah, I guess I haven't heard of anything like that, and it's like I guess it's nice to hear, you know, um, yeah, anything other than sledging it can this sort of fight, especially between us and the way that the first fight went down. The sledging was there in the first one, and there was a bit of animosity in that first one. But I guess as myself, the only time I feel as an athlete is you can correct yourself and you can do better and you can get better is when you acknowledge your mistakes. And that's what I've been doing since that first loss. And every fight since that loss, I've been putting things together, acknowledging what I could do better, what I did wrong, what I could change. And, it's all led me to here. And, yeah, I'm very excited to get in there and put my skills to the test again.
Yeah, you had said that you admitted that you got a little bit too emotional of the lead up. He was kind of playing a lot of those games. What takeaways did you take from that? I mean, was that kind of the first? Was it because it was the first time you were dealing with that kind of opponent?
Other opponents have tried it. I think it was a whole host of things. It was a whole host of different things that got him to my own head. And there was a lot of things on my end that is the way I handled them and the way that I took them that made it worse. And, I think he even mentioned it, that my ego was something that got him that affected me. And you know what? And as much as I don't want to acknowledge my opponent for insight, it's like my ego probably was a big thing. Well, it was a big part of why my headspace wasn't where it should have been for that fight. Why I was letting the debate between Australia and New Zealand get to me. Why I was letting all these little things get to me. And I guess it showed, the results of that showed in the way that I was behaving, in the way that I put the fight together, in the way that I was fighting in the moment. So, I've acknowledged all of that. And you can see, obviously, I've come to terms with a lot of that. And I'm a different fighter now than I was then.
And do you have any appreciation at all for that kind of like dance partner? I mean, last time you guys did it in front of a sold out crowd, it was completely different to your recent fights, right? Closed Apex and stuff like that. So looking back and having like a massive fight with that big of a magnitude as opposed to like small Apex, do you compare those at all? Like, is there one you prefer over the other, or is it all the same?
Like in regards to like whether or not I like sold out or quite behind the scenes sort of isolated fights.
That and the fact that, the press conference, all that, like it was just such a completely different vibe as opposed to you like fighting Kelvin at the Apex or something.
Yeah, certainly. So that fight in Australia with Izzy was massive, and the pressure and the hype and the media and the attention and all of it was, it was a contributing factor to the amount of things that I was already kind of dealing with. It was, what it was? It was like a magnifying factor. So it just made those little things that were playing with my headspace and my mentality going into the fight, and made them just worse or bigger or more, impactful into how it would affect me. So to have the switch from that to the Apex, where it felt almost like sparring because you're just in the back room warming up, and then you walk out. And then you sorry about that. And then to have like no crowd, no staff, no crowd. It was a big shock. I personally liked the no crowds. I just felt intimate. It felt nice and quiet. I liked it. I liked Dubai a lot. So Abu Dhabi. So I guess to be going back to sold out crowds, like I enjoy that too. I take it for what it is. It's nice to be able to see the fans and give the fans a night they want, a night they pay for. And I'm looking forward to it.
And you've fought 3 times since then, 3 big wins, kind of knocked off top contenders that were in discussions to potentially fight him. And a lot of cage time as well. Great performances, a lot of cage time. Was that kind of nice for you? Because you're talking about being a completely different fighter. I'm sure you've made a lot of advancements in the gym, but was it nice to show it in the octagon too?
Yeah, it was massive for me to be able to utilize skill sets that I haven't needed to use in previous fights, to go out there and try new things and like adapt a new style of fighting, like adding my wrestling into the games, adding different sort of striking techniques into the game. It was and the different opponents, the different styles to try and come up against, the different styles to adapt to. They were it was I appreciate it. I really appreciate those fights. I appreciate the time I was able to put into those fights. And you were saying a lot of cage time. Yes, they all went to the distance, I know. But, I did my best to get them out of there. They're just tough guys, and maybe I don't hit that hard. I don't know.
No, that's not what I meant at all. Like your performances.
Backhanded comment then, wasn't it?
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. They were actually spectacular performances. I don't think anybody could say anything. I mean, you were in such a flow state with Kelvin Gastelum and the way you mixed up your grappling. And speaking of your grappling, I mean, it's always been a very underrated part of your game, but I feel like you've showed it off more than ever as of late. Is that something that you feel like will be a big part of the rematch?
Yeah, definitely. Like I would love to be able to get him on his back and to work on the ground. I've been obviously, it's no secret. It's no secret that like the greatest advantage anyone would have with Izzy is on his back, where he can't use his long arms and long legs to hit you. It's no secret. And am I going to focus on just that? No, that's anybody's guess, because I can strike with the best of them as well. So if an opportunity presents itself, I guess my whole headspace is just utilize the tools and the opportunities that I'm given in this fight. And that's, I think that sums it up pretty well. If I see takedowns, I'll take them. If I see openings to strike, I'll take them. Keeping that defense nice and tight. It's, more or less just a little less of what happened in the first fight.
What do you feel like was kind of your biggest mistake from the first fight?
Getting hit in the face. Definitely that one. Probably my recklessness moving in. I was recklessly charging in. I was falling into every one of his baits, every one of his traps, and just, stubbornly just trying to press forward, press the attack, and rip his head off. That's what was going through my head, and it didn't work. It didn't work, and that's not how I usually fight. You don't see me fight like that in a lot of other fights wherever. So I have addressed it. I've reflected on it, and we're going to try and get in there and do something different this next time.
Do you take anything away from his loss to Jan Blachowicz? It seemed like he was able to stand and strike with him, but it seemed like the takedown played a factor in the later rounds. So do you take anything away from his loss to Jan Blachowicz?
Yeah, certainly. I think I've mentioned it before. I think Jan set a blueprint on how to beat him, but again, I don't have the same skill sets and tools Jan does. I don't have that Polish power nor that Polish head, like he's a tough guy. So got to utilize what I have. Definitely we saw that Izzy is, much less dangerous off his back. Still dangerous, but less dangerous. So, if I was a strategist, I'd be writing down all the points of which Jan, utilized to take that win and then putting it in my own.
He's also fought a couple of times since you guys fought the first time. So do you see a different fighter? Like, what did you make of his last couple of performances?
I think he's had good performances. He's been safe in all of them. I don't think anyone's come close to beating him, to be honest. It's, except Jan, obviously. But he's a phenomenal fighter. He is. I'll give him props when they're due. But you know what? The overarching thing I can see when I watch him and when I've been watching him in his last few fights is just that I can beat him. He is beatable. We saw that with Jan, and I think I have the skill set to beat him. I do believe I can incorporate a game that will test him, that will push him. I guess it's just about what happens on the night, bringing it, on the night and executing.
I want to talk about your past win over Kelvin Gastelum. I felt like it was one of your more well-rounded performances. You were saying, I know you were joking about the whole backhanded comment of the cage time, but Kelvin, I mean, you hit him with everything in the kitchen sink. I think he's just got one of the most incredible chins. But what do you think is kind of next for Kelvin Gastelum? I mean, he's a guy who's obviously very skilled and talented, but he seems to be in that between of 170, 185. Should he go back down, stick to middleweight?
Yeah, I got a lot of love for that guy. I really like him, and I got a lot of respect for him as well. I think he's a good guy. He's had a bit of a rough skid lately, just because he's been fighting hard guys. He's been fighting top tier opponents. It's it is not easy trying to fighting and playing and trying to advance up in the top 5. It is hard. Everyone up there is the best in the world. Everyone up there could be the next champ, and we've seen that with him. He's been fighting the highest quality opponents. So I don't see him going back down to 170. He's a thick dude. He hits like a ton of bricks as well. Like he's I don't see him going down to 170. It's just he's in that awkward spot that I think a lot of guys get in, where they find it hard. Like they're coming up against the highest tier up in the top. At the top of the ladder, but they crush a lot of the dudes coming up into the ladder. So he's kind of getting caught in that gatekeeping sort of spot. But I don't know. He's my age, I think. So he's got years and to evolve and change his game and to develop new skill sets. I see him developing himself and coming back with with better versions of himself still. I don't think we've seen the best of Kelvin Gastelum.
For sure. And I want to ask you about a couple of big fights in your division. Jared Cannonier and Derek Brunson, same night as you. Who do you think takes that one? How do you see it playing out?
I think Cannonier takes that one. He's a tough dude. He's a tough dude with a very, very well-rounded skill set. Super hard dude to take down and keep down, more importantly. I think if Derek Brunson wins that fight, he takes him down, holds him down, pressures him out, and wins that way. It's very hard to keep Cannonier down. I don't see how he can hold him down, especially just over 3 rounds, not 5. I think that makes a difference. I think Cannonier is a tough dude. He hits hard. He's got good eyes, and he's got excellent wrestling takedown defense. Not to mention his own physical prowess going into it.
How about Derek Brunson's bounce back? Because obviously his losses to you and Izzy were pretty tough ones for him. Are you surprised to see him kind of back on a win streak like that?
No, I'm not surprised at all. I think he's a super high tier, high caliber opponent. He's a super high quality athlete. It's look at the guys he's lost to, really. He's the top dogs. So I definitely, because you saw him coming up to fight me, and then you saw it on the back end of it, after he lost to me and Izzy, and he's just cleaning out again. And he's a very, very high caliber fighter.
And another matchup in your division, Sean Strickland and Jack Hermansson. How do you see that one play out?
That's a strange one. Oh, it's strange. It's not strange. It's a hard one to comment on, to give an accurate prediction on, because both guys are very unique in the way they fight. Very unique in the way they fight. Honestly, I got no idea where I'm going with that, because both guys are very cardio heavier guys, very cardio forward pressure guys. Hermansson obviously likes a lot of the takedowns, but so does Strickland. Strickland's got very good takedown defense, and he can keep it standing, and he can pressure you with bunches of attacks. If I had to pick someone, I'd go Strickland. I think he can match the cardio levels and the output of Hermansson, and I think he's the better striker on paper. And I don't think he's going to be super easy to take down, to control him that way. Although Hermansson's grappling is top tier, so if it does go to the ground, it changes the game.
What do you think of Sean Strickland as a character, as a person?
I don't know him as a person. As a character, he seems all right. He doesn't do anything offensive to people. Doesn't do anything to put people down. So he just has a laugh. He's a character, but I give him that.
Right. One last one before I let you go, and I appreciate your time. How do you see kind of the fight with Izzy playing out? Do you have kind of a prediction, something mapped out in terms of how you see it playing out?
It's a hard fight to predict, because any prediction, it's hard for me to make a prediction just based on the fact we've already fought and he beat me once. So all I can accurately say is that I've training my butt off to get there, and that I'm just going to try and execute the best game plan that we've put together in these weeks and months to get the job done. I've looked at his past fights. I've looked at his loss to Jan. We think we've developed a plan that can beat him, that can dethrone him. And that's what I'm working to perfect before we clash in Feb. So that's what I'm doing.
Well, Rob, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate the time. Best of luck in February. Very much looking forward to the rematch. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.